Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Andrew Heaton.
Well, Jimmy Kimmel's show isn't the only thing that got canceled. According to Gavin Newsom, the 2028 election might be canceled too if Trump gets his way. Here's what he said on Stephen Colbert's show.
We are struggling to communicate. We're struggling to win back now the majority in the House of Representatives, and that's a big part of what I'm doing, not just today in terms of the work out here, raising money, but also raising awareness around how Donald Trump is trying to rig the midterm elections and how I fear that we will not have an election in 2028. I really mean that. In the core of my soul, unless we wake up to the code red, what's happening in this country, and we wake up soberly to how serious this moment is.
No election, 2028. It's canceled, I guess.
Here's what I hate. I don't like Gavin Newsom. Also, what's with his voice? It sounded like he was doing an RFK impression or something like that.
Or he had a Joe Biden debate night, sort of cold. Hopefully not the cognitive decline.
I assume Gavin Newsom's saying everything as a calculation for running for president in 2028.
Oh, I think he's running. I think he's the front runner, maybe.
He's probably the front runner, and I'm not a fan of him. That being said, the part that bugs me about this, I think he's at red alert. I'm at like yellow alert, maybe even orange alert.
Oh, you are?
Well, I mean, while I am overall using Bayesian reasoning, I 70% think we're going to have an election. 80% think we're going to have an election.
99.99% think we'll have an election.
But it does, there is some room for doubt in that the current executive did try to subvert an election 2 cycles ago.
We still had the election. He just didn't agree with the outcome.
Yes, perhaps we will have democracy.
And Hillary Clinton didn't agree with the outcome, and John Kerry didn't agree with the outcome, and Al Gore didn't. Although in that election it was actually unclear. you can't. In 2000 it was that 2000 was truly
I'll give that a heads up.
No, everybody gets a pass for that one. It was that was a question mark election.
The best push on that is yes, that other people have done comparable things. There have been faithless electors, that kind of thing.
Trump took a little further.
I think Trump took it quite a bit further.
Yeah.
I'm actually more bothered by the lead up to January 6th than I am to January 6th itself. Well, I went through and I read the court cases, and what they would do is they'd go into a purple state. Mm-hmm. They'd say, Judge, we think the votes here in this blue city have been compromised. We don't want to recount. We just want you to throw out the blue city votes.
Right.
Which struck me as trying to use the judiciary on a technicality to overturn a democratic election. So I'm not inspired with confidence in the faith and rule of law of the current executive.
Well, not to defend those actions, because that sounds great, that's fine. It was done like in a court and then got laughed out of court, right?
True,
everyone can, just like when somebody asks you, well, could you get sued for this? Like, everyone can get sued for anything. Because anyone can file a legal action against you. It's just, if it has no basis, it will be thrown out of court.
Okay, yeah. Let me rephrase it. If Trump could steal an election and he knew he was stealing with it, do you think he'd do it? If he knew he could get away with it?
Well, that's a different question.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's that bit that I'm worried about when it comes to the integrity of the democratic process. I do think we'll have an election.
It's an interesting individual that the majority of Americans have decided should be our president. Not the majority the first time, and this time the clear majority said, yep, sign me up. Which I think cuts against the idea that he would try to cancel the election because now it's not going to be him running. I guess that's the slightly more plausible conspiracy theory, is that he somehow seeks a third term, although it's just pretty directly
in theory,
not allowed in the Constitution.
Actually,
though.
Okay, wait, let me think about this, because they built it specifically around Truman, right? So you can have 2 of your own terms and half of another guy's term. Truman could run again. I was really rooting for Jimmy Carter in the last election.
Who could run again? Joe Biden.
Joe Biden could run again. Could Trump theoretically run as vice president for Vance and then take the 2-second the
little murky ground on that? I don't think so.
Constitutionally acceptable way to do it.
Yeah, there's some wiggle room on that. I think it's still not doable. Also, I think J.D. Vance wants to be president. It's like, it's his turn. You pick J.D. Vance as your designated successor so that there's no actual succession fight. It's not going to be a very competitive primary, I don't think.
I'll say that the thing that I'm gearing up for that I'm going to hate in the next election, I do think we're going to have an election. I just am less enthusiastic about American prospects at the moment than I have been in the past. I think we'll have an election. I'm bothered.
Will the Democrats have an election, or will they just say, actually, we decide it's you now?
One of the things that I'm bothered about is a lot of my Democratic friends are talking about how the election's going to be rigged. Now, I just spent the last 6 years going out going, the election wasn't rigged. It was a legitimate election. Joe Biden won. And now I'm going to have to go around to a lot of the same people that I was previously like, yes, they're correct, and go, no, it was a legitimate election. The Republicans won, whatever that thing is. I don't like it when everybody's undermining. I don't like people undermining elections. That's the thing.
It's a weird mix of stop saying crazy things that are wrong and, well, but you have the right to be skeptical and just believing everything we're told is also stupid. It's nuance. I hate it. It's been nice to see a little bit of old-fashioned kind of left, liberal, progressive kookery lately, because Republicans have really cornered the market on that in recent times. But now, with some of these very regrettable, sad, violent incidents against Charlie Kirk and others, this shooting at an ICE detention center, which actually just killed the detainees. It was not law enforcement people who were harmed. And the bullets say like anti-ICE, and I'm seeing progressive people be like, well, that could mean anything. I have no idea who did this. In fact, I don't believe it. I don't even think it was written on that. I'm like, well, this is some, it's better when it's spread out among all sides. People should be believing things that are wrong and laughable and dumb, regardless of political affiliation, would bring the temperature down in our country. Spread out your kooks. Do you know what I mean?
I would like to have a kook and idiot redistribution program. I think that's good. I, an avowed independent, do not want to have two parties where one party is crazy or stupid and one party is smart and or sane. That does not seem like a really stable situation for me. Yeah, we can spread them around. A couple of years ago, you're going to hate I was at Burning Man, so let me just preface that. I was at Burning Man, and I sat down next to a guy, and I was like, "Hey,
were you dressed just like this?"
I was dressed just like this, except with no shirt. It was game show host having affair in Bermuda with the vibes that I had. And I would like, hey, good morning, guy. And he's like, yeah, I just took acid. I was like, terrific. Okay. And he's like, might kick in. I mentioned I was living in Texas at the time. And he went, oh man, I have half a mind to go to Texas to make it blue, to make it purple. And I was like, well, why don't you just register as a Republican wherever you are right now? You could have that same impact within the Republican. And like, you could tell that for him, that was like me going, well, why don't you just become Catholic? Mm-hmm. Because for him, it is a religion.
Yeah, why don't you just become Catholic? Yeah. That's what, a Catholic, said everyone.
Yeah.
So. Very interesting stuff. Well, I'll see you in the next election if that happens. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. If maybe the Libertarian Party will have a candidate.
For real, in 2020, I tried to bring back the Whig Party. If it hadn't been for the confluence of events that made in-person politicking difficult, my plan was to go to Louisiana, which is the easiest place to get on the ballot in the country. Mm-hmm. You've got to get X amount of ballot signatures in every county. So I was going to go down there and do that. I was going to bring the Whig Party back. And I was running as vice president because I thought it was kind of cocky to run for president.
You need a military general at the top of the ticket. You need Zachary Taylor
we weren't going to have that. We weren't going to run a presidential candidate.
Tippecanoe and Heaton too.
It was just in Heaton too. I was just running for vice president. No one was running for president. We were just going to have a blank space and then I was going to be VP. So maybe I'll do that in 2028. Bring back the Whig Party.
You got my vote.
Thank you.
More free media right after this.